Good morning, everybody. Betting for breakfast, Super Bowl bets. Super Bowl is coming up on Sunday. I cannot wait. Powered by the Sharp app. I'm Mark Drumheller. Dave Gleckner is going to be joining us in a bit, but we are here finally after 2 weeks to talk about the biggest game of the year, the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Los Angeles Rams. There is just a ton of action on the table. You can check any of your local sports books, and there's just a plethora of player props and novelty props, different ways to kind of bet the game. However, quarter bets, however you think you can find an edge on the books, there is there. And listen, each sports book does have a different set of props out there. If you check the link in the description, we have a ton of promo codes where you could open up an account. If there's a sports book that you haven't tried, hop in there, take advantage of some of those deals, get some free money, and have some fun on Sunday. That's what it's all about. But can't wait to get into this game. We previewed it a little bit last week, talking about the matchup between the Bengals and the Rams. This is a game where you have two teams that I think nobody expected to be there from the beginning of the year. Everybody, not only the beginning of the year, but probably, when the playoffs started, 2-4 seeds. So very uncharacteristic to see this in the Super Bowl. But again, what it does for us as fans and sports bettors is, it's a little refreshing because we don't have the fatigue, right? It's not Kansas City in the Super Bowl again, right? They've been very successful over the past couple of years. There's no Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. So what that does is it opens the door for some new stars, some new quarterbacks to get a shot. And we're seeing second-year quarterback Joe Burrow, lead the Cincinnati Bengals, to the Super Bowl, and also Matthew Stafford finally getting his chance with the Los Angeles Rams, right? All those years in Detroit, and he finally gets the opportunity. But again, there's just a ton of action. We're going to be talking about player props. I have a handful I'm going to go over. Dave's going to be joining me as well. He has a ton to go over on both sides, right? I got player props on the Bengals. I got player props on the Rams. So no matter what side you like, we're going to have a little something for you today. And then, of course, we're going to give our side total, and we're going to talk about the MVP market as well. But listen, the best way to get ready for the Super Bowl, by sure, make sure you're downloading the Sharp app and join the Discord. It's all about community. You want to be around sports bettors. You want to hear as much information as you can, and you can do that right in our free Discord. The link is below. There's going to be a ton of different professional handicappers in there. We have a handful of professional guys that use our models, our proprietary models, to come up with the best edges all over the game. So, make sure you hop in there, hop into Discord, see what it's about. It's free, and see if you can, get some conversation going. We're going to be in there popping off these props all day tomorrow. So there's going to be a ton of action. It's going to be a little, hard to keep up with, but, very excited about that from this front. So let's start with some of the news from the game. It does look like, Tyler Higby not going to play in the Super Bowl. That was one of the big things. A lot of people were wondering he wasn't practicing. So this does not come as a surprise to me. Kendall Blanton, anytime touchdown, he's going to get the bulk of the work for the Los Angeles Rams in this matchup. And this is a game I think that a lot of people expect the Rams to have a ton of success offensively. When we look at these teams and, the Cincinnati Bengals, their defense has played very well in the postseason. But when you're breaking this game down, taking the whole season in totality, I think a lot of people see the big stars. They see all the action on the, on the Rams offensive side. And it comes down to, can Cincinnati stop them enough to stay in the game? Because we know the Cincinnati offense is going to have to go against Aaron Donald. And that's really where the handicap starts with these two teams, is that defensive front with Aaron Donald going up against Joe Burrow and that defense. So I think it's going to be an excellent game. I can't wait to get into everything. We have Dave coming on in just a few minutes. He's going to join me, and we're going to talk about, the side of the game. So this is a game, during the season, we've been, some weeks we were aligned, some weeks we're not, but I'm pretty sure we're aligned in this one. So we're going to bring Dave on now to talk about it. We'll start with, some of the the player props that we like and how the game's going. There he is, my man Dave. How you making out?
Dude, I'm doing great, man. Another early morning basketball session, but now I can talk what I want to talk about, and that's Super Bowl with you. And I can't wait to get into this over the next half hour plus here of all the great stuff we got lined up for tomorrow.
Perfect. I'll tell you, this is the first year there's really two teams. I kind of touched on this that we didn't expect to be here. Like, we didn't expect either of these teams. I know the Rams went out and made a bunch of moves, some high profile moves in the beginning of the year, but I still think people were kind of like, like, it's still Matthew Stafford. Like, is he going to be able to get the job done? And here they are. Joe Burrow and Cincinnati Bengals really accelerated their rebuilding process. They kind of skipped it, right? They were just like, hey, you know what? We're going to go right to the Super Bowl. And, and the Rams got it done. They went through Tom Brady. They went through the Niners, who were surging towards the end of the year, got the Achilles heel, that the Niners have pretty much been their Achilles heel, of late. And they slayed that demon, and now they move on, and they got a home crowd, and they're here to take on the Bengals. So I'm excited about this one, Dave.
I am too. And you know what's funny about the Bengals, and I'm sure you've seen it too, it should have been the Browns. If there's a team from Ohio that was taking the natural progression, right, and really building their team in the right way and getting to points in the playoffs that they should be in the Super Bowl, it looks like the Browns, but instead the Bengals said, nah, we're going to skip over everybody. We're going to make this giant leap over Baltimore, over Pittsburgh, and over you too, Cleveland. And here we are, and we ain't going nowhere. And it's really neat to see a team really leap. Leap is the word we got to use to this spot, because you could have never seen it coming with 4 wins last year. Joe coming off the ACL injury. You didn't really know what this team would be, but they've done it during the season. It's been so cool to see how they've adjusted their game, right? They became a pass-heavy team. We've been noting that over the last 5 weeks of the year. They said the only way we're going to beat some of these teams is to really put it all on Joe. And they did. So it's really neat to see. But, the adjustments all around. The defense has turned into what was a sieve to just, a decent defensive unit now. So it is cool. And the Rams, on the other hand, you kind of like the Rams I picked to get to the Super Bowl on our other show, Fourth and Go. Not too surprised, right? They sold everything they could for this year. And but I'm probably surprised once the playoffs started that they got here, because they had to run through, a gauntlet of teams. So I'm a little surprised there, but before the season, probably wasn't that surprised that they'd be here today.
Yeah, I mean, big year for the Rams. They went all in. It's paid off. And we're gonna see if they can take advantage, right? And that's really what it comes down to. But let's kick things off with just the game, how we expect this game to go. I think the big question is the Cincinnati offense going to be able to score on the Rams because of Aaron Donald? And that's the key matchup. And everybody watched the defensive line kind of wreak havoc on the Chiefs last year. Patrick Mahomes ran for like 400 yards all over the field, just not forward, last year. And they were really, decimated by, their inability to block up front. And I think there's a little bit of recency bias when we go into this game, where people have that game fresh in their mind. That's the image that they have of the Super Bowl. And then they see Aaron Donald, number one, the Rams, number one defense in pass rush win rate, going against, the last offensive line in pass block win rate. So, a big contrast there. And a lot of people are thinking that, hey, it's going to be very much like we saw last year. The Rams defensive line is going to dominate, and there's not going to be really much that Joe Burrow and the Bengals can do. But I don't see it that way, Dave. I think that, there are ways that the Bengals can take advantage of that defensive line and the rush, and they can do it through screens. They have the players to get yards after the catch. And, Mina Kimes brought up a great point, in a segment on ESPN this week, where she talked about how, the Rams are most vulnerable on defense. They're very poor at short, intermediate passes. So if you're Zach Taylor and you're trying to beat a pass rush, you need Burrow to get the ball out quick. And, so those short passes are going to be open for him. And it's just going to be a matter of, whether those guys can get separation off the release. And I think against a team that plays heavy zone like the Rams, I think they can. So I think, we're going to see some points from the Bengals here.
Yeah, I think you brought up some good points. What we do know is that you can't game plan for Aaron Donald. Like, you can sit there and say, I'm going to double him. Then they're going to move him outside on the edge. Then they're going to move him back inside. He's going to be all over that front, and you're really not going to be able to game plan that easily for Aaron Donald. It's just, you're going to just have to team block. And that's what the Bengals are, and they're going to light up some sacks. The Rams had 50, during the season, a high volume sack team. So we know that's going to happen, but where do they catch them off guard with that? And the Rams do like to blitz too. They're not the most blitz heavy team, but they do bring some extra pressure at times. And you're right. I think the Bengals will be able to, counter that with those short intermediate crosses. I think they're going to be T. Higgins, I just think, is going to be the man in this game. But, don't put it away. Chase will still get his. He's going to be covered a little bit. But those quick passes, I think, are going to be key. And if they can break one, I mean, that's going to be one of the big things in this game, right? They're good at breaking those. And if they can break one off that quick intermediate slants and unders and rollouts, I think they got a chance to really counter that pass rush. They'll get sacked. But I think the Bengals have the right weapons, like you said, to counter this team. Who have the Rams lost to this year? Think about it. They've lost to Green Bay. They've lost to Arizona. They've lost to the Niners twice, Tennessee. Teams that, do have that type of dynamic offense. So, I think the Bengals can be one of those teams as well.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point with, I think one of the main questions for sports bettors going into this when we talk about the prop market is, how is Jaylen Ramsey going to impact the production of the Cincinnati Bengals wide receivers, right? Because Jaylen Ramsey is probably the premier quarterback in the NFL. He can lock people down, but they don't use him typically to, like I said, they play a lot of zone. He's not usually following somebody all over the field. So is he going to be primarily locked up on Ja'Marr Chase? I don't think so. Probably more than not, but I don't think he's going to be following them around all game. I just don't think that's how they are. And when you look at the Bengals offense, you mentioned T. Higgins, you mentioned Tyler Boyd. They have a diverse set of weapons. And I think that's really where the Bengals hold an advantage here is that, if Jaylen Ramsey's on Ja'Marr Chase, they can take advantage and they can utilize T. Higgins. They can utilize Tyler Boyd in those guys in those soft zones. And I think that they can, we're really going to see a big output. Tyler Boyd's one of the props that I like, him over his receiving yards. I know a lot of people are on T. Higgins. I think that, those guys are really set up to have a huge matchup. If Ramsey tries following Ja'Marr Chase around, which, I think we might see a little bit in the early going, but if that's happening, I think as the game goes on, I think it's because Ja'Marr Chase is chewing them up and they don't have any alternative. Now you're getting a Rams defense doing what they didn't plan to do going into the game.
Yeah. And listen, from the Bengals side, John Trey brings up a good point. Probably you're going to need to create some turnovers again. We know what Stafford's capable of in that area. But really, I think the key, John, for you guys, being a Bengals fan, is you're 4 for 11 in the red zone in the playoffs. It can't be under 40% clip when getting to the red zone. It just can't be if they're going to win this game. They probably got to convert, high 60s, if not 100% down there into touchdowns because – unfortunately, they can't rely on McPherson in this game. I mean, you can. He's going to get, you're going to need him to clip a couple, but you're going to need them to be extra points more than they are field goals. And I think that's going to be a big key. And the Rams are, middle of the pack red zone defense. So I think that's going to be a huge key to this game. The Bengals really haven't been great in the postseason. 4 out of 11. They got to convert better.
Yeah, that's true. But let's also, I think that the Rams defense is very strong, right? They're top 5 in defensive DVOA, Football Outsiders, efficiency metrics. They're a good defense. The defensive front is really good. That's the strength of the team, right? But not the 2000 Ravens, right? There were 7 teams that made the playoffs that averaged allowing less points than the Rams defense. And, a lot of that is because of Stafford and his willingness to turn the ball over, right? And, his propensity for interceptions. We've seen it throughout the playoffs. We saw it, 8 interceptions the last 3 games of the year. We saw him kind of panic against the 49ers and throw the ball up. And I think that that's going to be a key. Like in these playoff games, turnover margin is huge. You look at the Bengals defense, right? They've been forcing interceptions every step of the way, right? You can talk about what happened in the regular season until you're blue in the face. In the playoffs, 3 interceptions against Tannehill, 1 interception against Carr, and, probably could have had an interception at the end if they wanted it, but they just had to break up the pass and celebrate. And 2 interceptions against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in Arrowhead on the road. And you look at this Bengals defense, 6.3 points allowed in the second half of games this postseason. So, you're seeing the defense be able to make adjustments, be able to shut the other team down. And on the other side, you have a guy like Matt Stafford who has a propensity to panic, has a propensity to throw interceptions. And, if the Bengals are in short fields, I think it's an excellent point that they do have to capitalize and get 7 in those situations.
Yeah, and if you look at the Rams stats in the postseason, they've allowed 4 touchdowns on 5 red zone opportunities. So they have been vulnerable. They haven't let a lot of opportunities up, but San Fran was 1 for 1, Bucks 2 for 3, Zona 1 for 1. So they have let up the touchdowns when they've been down there. It's going to be so big in this game. If you see the Bengals not converting early, I think that's going to come back to haunt them. So that's got to be a game inside the game.
Yeah, 100%. So let's get into our picks. I can definitely lead things off. I'm pretty sure we're aligned here, but I am on the Bengals. I'm on the Bengals plus 4.5. I have a little bit on the money line, and I have some Joe Burrow MVP action at plus 225. So those are the bets that I have in the account. I did put significantly more on the MVP than I did on the money line. Just put a little money line, a little bit of a hedge in there. But the odds are better. If you're going to take Cincinnati to win, might as well take Joe Burrow as the MVP, because there's not many game scripts that are going to allow somebody else to win the MVP. If the Bengals are going to win this football game, they're going to have to get a big game out of Joe Burrow, and the voters are going to side with him. He is the rising star, I feel like, in the NFL when it becomes, when we're talking about young quarterbacks. He has arrived, and he's going to have his hands full against this Rams defense. I'm not, when I talk about the Rams defense as them not being the 2000 Ravens, like, I'm not saying that they're not good, but it's just, I don't think that they're the type of defense that can determine the outcome of a game by themselves, right? And, those great defenses of the past have been able to do that, but that's not really what we've seen from them this year. We can look at the Tampa Bay game, right? Everybody's like, oh, they beat Tom Brady. They had to score 1 million points in that game, right? And it was a game that they had a huge lead in, and that defense, up against an offensive line that was very compromised, right? Had a ton of injuries up front. They had a huge advantage on that offensive line in Tampa, and they still let up 24 second half points. They were making mistakes. They were panicking. They were fumbling all over the place. And listen, and that's really, when I break this game down, Dave, they're the intangibles. They're the things that I'm looking at is, who has a better chance of winning the turnover margin? We know how important turnovers are, right? And, who has a better chance of, making plays late in the game under pressure? What coaching staff has a better chance of keeping their composure and making adjustments? We've seen the Bengals make adjustments week in and week out during the playoffs, while the Rams just kind of do what they do and hope it works. Like, they had a great game plan against the Niners rushing attack going into that game, but they didn't really have to adjust on the fly in that game. So, there's some of the reasons, some of the things I look for. If it comes down to late in the fourth quarter and, it's going to be determined on, the quarterback and the kicker. And I'm more comfortable with Burrow and McPherson in that, setting. Those two guys are oblivious to pressure. So that's kind of what pulled me to the Bengals is that I think it's a game where the Bengals have shown time and time again that they can make plays on defense, they can make adjustments, and they can stay in the game. And the later this game goes, they become more alive, right? They become more alive as an underdog. The pressure starts mounting on the Rams. And I think when we get into the fourth quarter, I think it's going to be the Bengals football game.
Yeah, I'm all right. We are on the same side, right? I did plug in my 4.5s early. It has been interesting this week to even see the number dip to 3.5 in some markets. We're back up, I think, to hard 4. With that, I could probably see some 3.5 by tomorrow. So if there's any additional numbers you want to get, I'll probably plug in maybe a little more on 4 today, just to keep that where I want it. The Rams for me are simple. They're not simple. I shouldn't say it like that, but the Rams to me are, a little confounding. In the regular season, they were 2-5 against playoff teams with a negative 44-point differential. Now in the playoffs, obviously 3-0 and they're plus 29, but they just didn't play. And 2 of those teams, don't forget, are NFC West opponents. Very familiar with them, third time playing them. So I think that helped the Rams out a little bit. Tampa, a team they beat in the regular season, beat again. Where they probably were going to be in trouble were for some teams like Green Bay that they didn't end up matching up against. To that, I think they've had a favorable road in these playoffs. The Bucs were decimated with injuries, no offensive linemen, no receivers, and they almost pulled it out. So for me, I know the Rams probably, yes, better team. Look up and down the rankings. You probably have an edge on every side of the ball, every line, everything, except maybe, the kicker we talked about. Cornerback's probably a coin flip. It just depends what you like better, an age veteran or a young buck rookie. But there's something special about these Bengals. And like I said, these Rams they just don't close games. You saw late in the season, almost lost to the Vikings, almost lost to the Ravens, right? They've only blown out a few teams. It's been Jacksonville, the Bears early in the season. And I think the Bengals are going to be in this game a long, long time. And the longer you're in this game with a guy like Cold Joey Burr, the better chance you have. Shorten this game, keep it close late. And I really like the Bengals' chances. We always say, if you're going to take the underdog, you got to believe they can win the game. And I do believe the Bengals can win this game. And I don't think they're too young to not know what's going on. They've proven it to me. They went to Tennessee, the number 1 seed. They went to Kansas City, the number 2 seed. Beat Kansas City twice, in fact, in the last 6 weeks of the season. They've shown a lot for me. I'm loving them. I'm taking them +4. I'm taking some Joe Burrow MVP. I'm not taking the money line for one reason. I have futures on the Rams to win. So a scenario where the Rams win and Bengals cover would probably fall in my perfect market. I'm just going to load up on the 4.5 where I can get it. Load up on Joey Burrow. He could throw for 200 yards and 1 touchdown. If they win, he's getting MVP. So that's where I'm lining up. So I'm with you on 2 of those for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I love that I love that the Bengals have the opportunity to kind of stay in this game. And I think this is the perfect opponent for them. And, you talked about, we can look at the metrics and how they work on each side of the ball and how they kind of match up. And the Rams are stronger on, almost every area. But the areas that they're weak at, again, is like, the secondary, right? Ramsey's a strength, but you can attack those other guys. And I think that they're going to have to do it. And I think that the game plan, sets up for them. John brought up an interesting point. He talks about the third quarter. The Bengals have covered the spread in the third quarter spread in the last 7 games. And that just kind of leads to the adjustments that they're able to make, right? And that's going to be more important in this type of football game where, you have the extended halftime, right? So, it's almost like a second crack at the game to where, you can put together a new game plan and really come out firing. And I think that that's where you're going to see this Bengals coaching staff get it done. The adjustments that the defense has been able to make at halftime have been huge for this team. So I think you're going to continue to see that, play out. I took some over at some third quarter over. I got it at 9.5. I think that's a solid play. I think because you're going to see both offenses come out, after the first half, the jitters are gone, right? They get that extended time. They can make adjustments and kind of put the defense on their heels. So I like the over there. Took a little bit third quarter over, and some third quarter highest scoring quarter. I took that as well. And, John also brought up that, hey, Anthony Gargano from the Wise Guys, right? Very popular, here in the Philadelphia area. He likes the Bengals. I mean, he likes the Rams. He likes, alt spread double digits. He thinks the Rams can run away with this game. Outside of Arizona, who probably didn't belong in the playoffs, I haven't seen the Rams with the ability to separate all year. So, I disagree with that. I think that this Bengals team has shown that even if they get down big, they can come back against the best teams in the NFL. And what do we see with the Rams when they got a big lead against Tampa? They let Tampa back in. They didn't get off to a big lead against San Francisco, but that Week 18 game, same thing. They got a big lead. They let their opponent back in. So, yeah, they blew out the Cardinals, but I think everybody agreed the Cardinals had no place being in the playoffs. And there's a big difference between Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray, and, the Bengals and what they have going on with Joe Burrow. So I think that I would stay away from any kind of double-digit spread. I think that that's just kind of you're doing a little bit of a shot in the dark. But, Anthony's a guy I respect. And there's a lot of people on the Rams that I really respect. So I'm going out a little bit on an island with this pick. But, listen, you got to go with, how you see the game and how you see the game playing out. And I just can't get away from the fact that, this Bengals team just continues to stay in games and to wear teams out, and they don't go away. And if it's a close game, I like Burrow. I like McPherson at the end much more than I like Stafford and the Rams to be able to pull it out.
Welcome to the island, brother. I need some
Yeah.
more people over there because when I was, on Fox Sports Gambler talking about that game in Kansas City, I was definitely the only one. I had a lot of real estate, a lot of room to move around, but I need you guys because I'm with you. It is. We're taking a team that probably doesn't align up to some of the numbers and metrics that we probably usually use to handicap, and we're using some other angles to handicap this game. But I believe we're on the right side. I mean, look at the Bengals. On the flip side of how they've performed against playoff teams this year, they were 2-2 in the regular season. Their two losses were the Packers in OT and the Niners in OT. Two really strong teams, and they lost by 3. Smoked the Raiders, beat the Chiefs by 3, and then now you've seen the progression in the playoffs. But they had positive point differential in those 2-2 games, where the Rams were negative point differential versus good teams in the regular season. It's just, to me, that's really important. And then watching what Sean McVay did, let's bring it up, in his first Super Bowl appearance, to get totally outcoached by Bill Belichick and just in absolute display of they could do nothing against the front. Would they run 6 up in the box and say Goff beat us? It was 10 total, I think, in the box, 1 safety deep. And then now you look McVay last week, I thought he showed some warts too. He was panicking. He's trying to challenge 4th and short when there was no chance they were going to overturn that. He was out of the challenges and timeouts by mid-third quarter. Even Aikman, noted on it. So I think that's another big point here that, as much as Sunshine is like the class of the NFL, everybody loves him. I'm not sure he has a huge advantage over a rookie coach in Taylor. So I like Taylor the way that they've been doing, performing all year and in the playoffs. So there are a lot of angles we can take, but the good thing is we're on the same side.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, I get it. Like, nobody knows Taylor better than McVay, right? Those guys work together, and it's probably vice versa. But we do have a data point with that old Super Bowl of, of Sean McVay not being able to adjust. Belichick put 6 defensive linemen up there to take away that wide zone running, and he didn't know what to do, and he just sputtered the entire game. So, the lack of adjustments that I think I continue to see from Sean McVay. Now, listen, that doesn't mean he doesn't make adjustments and, they don't go out there and win, but I just haven't seen it in the past. And I think when you look at the two teams and how they performed recently, the Bengals are the team that's making the adjustments. The Bengals are a team that are kind of like able to come back when their back's against the wall. So I don't know. I like the Bengals here. I think, again, it comes down to, I think it's going to be a close game. So getting the 4.5, capturing that is very important, right? And I think they're live. Like, if it's a close game, I like them in this spot. But let's talk about some of the props that we have in the account that are ready to go. I talked about some last week. I think I gave, the Cooper Kupp overs. Obviously, that's still in there. Anything new that you added, Dave, this week for Super Bowl Sunday?
Well, just to start off the game, I'm always a tails never fails guy. So you will see me. I love the coin flip bet. It's just so much drama in that little coin flipping in the air. And then you can yell at the ref for not flipping it right, too flat, too many spins, whatever you got if you don't win, or you love them if you win. And it's just fun to really start off the Super Bowl with a bet. I'm not saying load up on it, but have a little fun. I'm going tails never fails. You know what? It did fail for Josh Allen, but I think we're going to be okay in this one. So I'm starting with tails, but then looking at the real game props, I am looking at Burrow. I think it's going to be big for them. We've talked about how much he's passed over the past, 4 or 5 weeks. And I don't think they're going to be able to get away with this run on first down style that they tried versus Tennessee when they were just trying to keep that game within reach. I think they're going to have to open this thing up. So I do like Burrow over his 1.5 touchdowns, and I do like him over his yards, 280. I'm a little nervous about completions and attempts because he could get them in chunks. Like we talked about earlier, some of the quick hitters could turn into some big plays. And I do think the Rams give up a little bit more leverage downfield. So that's what I like. As we're looking at Cincinnati, I did give out last week. I do like Mixon over his receiving total. He's hit it every game in the playoffs. I think it's at 25.5. He's going over that total. I think he's 27 to 31 throughout the playoffs so far. And then the Higgins over 71. Still love that. I'm with you. So those are the 4 I like on the Bengals side.
Yeah, I really like that Mixon over receiving yards. I'm going to punch that one in for sure. I think that's a winner. And I got over on Boyd. They're the 2 Bengals I got. Boyd over, and I got over on Mixon. receiving yards. And then on the Rams side, I got over Kupp and I got Cam Akers under. I think that, you're going to see a trio of running backs, getting to work, and they're going to go with the hot hand. I mean, this is, everything's on the line. So if that's not Cam Akers, then, I think Henderson, coming back, and Akers just hasn't been the same since he came back. And then you got Sony Michel in the mix. It's just a lot of cooks in the kitchen. So, I played his under on that. And they're the two ones. And then again, I have McPherson, gave this one out. McPherson the Bengals to successfully kick the longest field goal. So longer field goal, McPherson. I got that at like 130 at PointsBet, I believe. That's a play I have in the account. Talked about the third quarter, right? Have some bets on that. And trying to think if I have anything else, but I think that might do it for the prop bets for that type of action. An interesting point though, Dave, I wanted to go over, PFF on their podcast, they were talking about, and I thought that this is very telling in the different ways that you can kind of attack a certain outcome. They were talking about, instead of playing the under 48, that it's almost like a better play to play over 6.5 punts. Which is, an interesting way to attack it. Like, I thought that was, because me personally, like, as far as the total is concerned, kind of like feel like I have a strong enough edge on either side. I'm like, hey, it could go over. I could definitely see, I think a lot's going to depend on how much the refs are calling holding, right? Is how much, whether this total is going to go over. But the punt prop I thought was interesting, because if you like the over, if you like the under, you just take the over on the punts, right? And, over the 6.5. So I thought that made a lot of sense.
That is interesting. I don't like cheering for punts, so I'm just not, but it's interesting. So, I mean, it is one way to look. I do think points will be scored in this game, but I'm not going to touch the total either. I mean, the Bengals are sitting here in 0-3 to the over in the playoffs. I think the Rams are 1-2. So you've seen these teams working at a 1-5 to the total under. I mean, there are 5 unders out of their 6 games played. So, I mean, I don't love it, but I do think, like you said, it's going to depend a little bit on the obviously the red zone conversions, as we talked, but the penalties too, for sure. So I'm probably not touching it, and I'd rather get if I think over, I'm rather going to play them in player props. So I did have a few others. I do like Stafford over his longest completion, 39.5. You've seen it. He likes to rip it downfield, and he's got 3 weapons he can do that.
There'll be opportunity for that.
Yeah, he'll at least throw 3 or 4 long balls out. So you're hoping one gets caught, and by the Rams, but you're also hoping maybe one gets caught by the Bengals. So that's why I'm taking Matt Stafford over 0.5 interceptions. It's -140, so it's juiced a little bit, but I just feel like balls are going to be out there. They're going to be up in the air. Stafford likes to gamble a little. So I think the Bengals, how opportunistic they've been. Drums, you brought it up earlier. Whether they have 5 interceptions this postseason so far, or 6, 1, 3, and 2, I think. Yeah. Yep. So I do like them to get one off Stafford as well. And then, looking at Kupp, I love the Kupp over receptions and yards, as you posted. I think we're at 7.5, 101.5. I'm not going to be like Drake and put it all on OBJ. I'm just going to let that one ride. And as he's, poured a ton of money on OBJ to score first, to get us over the receiving yards. I just don't know. The Bengals have actually, done pretty well against second-tier receivers. I mean, if you saw this Kansas City game, I mean, Tyreek had 7, Kelsey had 10 catches. Next closest was 3. So I'm just not sure I'm in to go with a second receiver off this Bengals defense. And then, you can look at the Titans game too, right? A.J. Brown, huge game. Julio had 6, but he had 6 for 60. So everybody else, nothing. They only had 15 total completions. So, I'm not going to touch OBJ, but I like Kupp. The number ones have been a lot against the Bengals. 2's not as much.
Yeah. Definitely Kupp. I mean, I think the way he can work the middle of the field, absolutely love that play. But anything else you got in the account that we go over? We're going to bring Lexi on. She's going to talk a little bit about the game, and she has the Matt Stafford tie for living in Detroit. So I think she wants to get into that. The Detroit fans have really taken to the Rams and Matt Stafford, through merchandising and everything else. So we're going to bring her on in a little bit. But anything else before we bring Lexi on, Dave?
No, that's pretty much it. Like, some of the numbers I got have changed since. Like, I'd Burrow over 273. I think he's up to 280. So you have seen the market move. But, over on the Burrow, over on T. Higgins, over on Mixon, over on the touchdowns with Burrow, and then over Stafford with this completion and everything Cooper Kupp. And I think I'm feeling pretty good sitting there. So there could be a couple fun ones that we plug in as we get closer, those coin flips as we talked about. But no, that's where I'm leaning. I don't bet unders, man. We're just going for the guys we like to put up the yards and touchdowns.
There you go. Absolutely. Adam checking in. Adam downloaded Sharp app. He wants to know how he places his bet. Adam, there's a couple things, different things you can do, right? You download the Sharp app, and what the Sharp app does is it gives you all the different odds from the different sports books, right? So you're gonna have to place your actual bet in the sports book. There are links in the description for new users for all the different accounts. DraftKings, FanDuel, use those links to sign up to one of the sports books and open up an account. And that's kind of how you place your bet. If you need any help with it, you can hop on the free Discord. There's a link in there as well. And they'll be able to kind of walk you through, the best ways to use the app, how to get set up with the promos, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a ton of good deals out there, a ton of different ways to, make some money, and hopefully everybody have some fun on Sunday. One important thing, I want to mention before we bring Lexi on is, go bet with a plan, right? When we're going into this game, there's a ton of bets you can make. I know so many people, you have a 2-week period leading up to this game. By the time the game finally comes, they got 1,000 bets. They got a bunch of bets going this way. They got a bunch of bets going that way.
You don't even know what you win.
Right. Yeah. Get a spreadsheet, track your bets, make sure everything's going towards a specific game script that you think is going to happen. And it's not like, hey, you're betting, all these overs on props and the unders on the game, and you got everything conflicting. And so, make sure you're tracking your bets, set yourself a bankroll, how many bets you want to place, how much of each, and then kind of move accordingly and have some fun, because that's really what the Super Bowl is all about. It's about having some fun, and I'm going to have a ton of fun after the Bengals win. So very excited about the game on Sunday. Let's bring Lexi on there. We got a couple minutes left. And she's going to talk a little bit about, her side of things with Matt Stafford going to the Rams. There she is. How you doing, Lex?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Great.
Good. Yeah. It's been a ride this whole season, from the beginning, obviously Stafford leaving was bittersweet, and, seeing your quarterback of 12 years, go to a stacked team, you're like, oh God, this is going to be interesting. And I had a feeling they were going to make it to the Super Bowl from the beginning. Kind of dwindled a little bit when I saw Stafford start throwing picks and everything again throughout the season. But, they came together and they got it done. And, clutch Stafford came through in the end there. But, yeah, the merchandise of, like, Lions. I mean, it's one thing that I've seen Lions fans go and buy, like, a Stafford jersey for the Rams. Couldn't be me, but that's like all for you. Like, that's cool. Do you? But it's the combination of merchandise of Detroit Rams. There's nothing more embarrassing than that to me. Like, I just think that it's one thing to claim Stafford, that's fine. But to, make that merchandise is just cringy.
It's a little weird. It's a little like, I mean, Dave, let's be honest, right? Like, we're Philadelphia Eagles fans. We live here outside of Philadelphia. If Zach Ertz went to the Super Bowl with the Cardinals, like, we would be cheering for him, but we wouldn't be making merchandise like, hey, Arizona Eagles, like, here we come. Like, that's like,
It ain't happening.
It's a little over the top.
We're not making Ben Simmons Nets shirts either. So, yeah.
Right.
I would love to see someone in Philly. Simmons.
Philly Nets? No. Ain't happening.
No. Yeah, but I mean, it's like
carry the best.
To each their own, but don't take it beyond something like that to me. But that's one thing that's just been bugging me this off season, this postseason. But it is what it is. I'm happy for him. I said from the get-go, like, I just want nothing but the best for him. But I've stated that I just am not a Rams fan, and I'm not a McVay fan. So I am all Who Day. I'm ready for. I know. I love Joe Burrow. I mean, I don't even care. Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, how do you root for a team from Ohio being from Michigan? It's like professional. That doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm not like that. College is a different thing, but I love this team.
Whatever.
Like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I know. I'm going to be pulling out my Chad Johnson jersey tomorrow and wearing it. I'll be in support. But yeah, I got the C. Johnson one. That was before he could.
Oh, I got
that's how long ago I bought it. But it's going to be a great game. Two great quarterbacks, two, down the line clutch quarterbacks that have shown us, in this postseason alone. So, and two quarterbacks that have never been here before. So that's what's so interesting about this Super Bowl is that we finally get some fresh faces and like new teams. And I'm excited for it. It's going to probably be one of the best ones yet.
I think so too, man. So before we get out of here, let's give a prediction on the score. See if we can nail the exact score. Dave, I'm going to start with you.
They're all close, man. These teams just have both played very close games. The Bengals have needed to win on the last second score in each of their 3 playoff games. In a way, I mean, the last second defense against
Kansas City.
Oh, did we lose Dave? I guess it looks like he fell asleep there. I guess he doesn't want to give us a score. Lex, let's move on to you. What do you got as far as a score?
So I actually have 27-24 Bengals.
27-24 Bengals. Love it. Adam's checking in. He has 34-31.
You didn't hear me?
Rams. Adam, I used to like you.
Wow.
Listen, we got through the whole season. You've been
froze.
one of my favorites, and now you're taking the Rams. We don't want to hear from Adam anymore. Nah, I'm only kidding, buddy. I love you. Dave's back. He woke up. What do you got, pal?
Like, Lex had it. I said 27-23 Bengals.
Oh,
so we're
nice.
right there. We're right in line. I think a late defensive stop.
Love it. Absolutely love to see it. I'm going to go 29-24 Bengals. Give you a little bit of obscure score. So play that exact one. Throw a little splash on it. See if you can make some money. But listen, everybody have fun on Sunday. It's going to be a tremendous game. A little bittersweet conclusion to the season, but we're finally here, and hopefully we can come out winners. Best of luck to everybody. Hope all your bets cash, and we will see you back next week.
See ya.